Welcome everyone to episode 59 of the Chris Perish podcast. My name is Chris Perish, and I want to take this time to apologize to anybody who was trying to watch on Facebook, as Facebook was giving me a little bit of complications. So first things first, if you are trying to watch on Facebook, I will try to have this episode played a little bit later on through the day. But make sure that if you can, to swing over to either the YouTube, the Twitch, the X, or the Instagram account just to get that all settled. I would appreciate that, and I apologize for that. But, sometimes Facebook just is being Facebook. But first things first, let's get that housekeeping out of the way. The Chris Perish podcast is brought to you by beercadewhyte. You can find them on X at beercadewhyte, beercadewhyte on Instagram and on Facebook, but located at 105 82nd Ave, where they now have the Royal Rumble event being played on Saturday, February 1st. You do not want to miss it, because what they do is very cool. During the Royal Rumble matches, they will hand out a number, whether it's 1 all the way to 30 during the Rumble matches, and whoever comes out during that entrant that you have, if they win, you win a prize. But let me tell you a little something extra. You may be getting another little extra kick from yours truly, Chris Perish and beercadewhyte. As everyone knows, I am attending the Royal Rumble this year. And I also want to make sure we give a shout out to Rogue Energy. Making sure you go to rogueenergy.com and you make sure that you use the promo code PERISH, PERISH, to save yourself 10% off on all your orders. Make sure that you're doing that if you want to get a good little kick to your day. They have an abundance, a plethora of flavors. And then also check out Turnbuckle Studios and the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program at affiliationprogram.my.canva.site. And you can find your introduction, your hello to podcasting, to your content creation, and you can get yourself that little foot in the door when it comes to not only the Turnbuckle Studios family, but also a part of just, achieving maybe something that you wanted to do in podcasting or content creation. In the comments there, we got our good old friend Bobby Stats, Bobby Vadito, coming in saying, hey, good afternoon, Perish. Good afternoon, Bobby. I'm glad that you're here. Also want to take this time to let everybody know that you can support the Chris Perish podcast by sharing the link. You can go by and liking the video, as a Bobby Vadito is just doing right now. Just like the video on YouTube, I appreciate that. Yes, that's right. You can go and you can like, you can follow, you can subscribe, you can do all that good stuff, no matter the platform that you're on, but making sure that you are also, if you can, sharing this out, telling your friends, telling your enemies. Maybe you don't even like the show and you're like, here, you watch it. That's all good. But if you do like it and you want to spread the word, sharing is a great way to do so, because I would love to have you not only here, but a part of the chat where we can all enjoy some good professional wrestling discussions, plus maybe a little bit more here every Sundays at 12:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, a fun show because it was a historic week in pro wrestling, as we all know. You can tell a family member too. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. But yeah, busy week, historic week, as we all know. If you were living under a Dwayne Johnson, you would not have known that Raw is now officially on Netflix, which is pretty weird to say, because I sit here in front of you as a 38-year-old man watching pro wrestling on Netflix. I have watched the NHL on Amazon. I know I've seen the NFL on other areas, whether it's DAZN, whether it's Game Pass. I've seen it on Disney, and it's weird. But we live in a new time now. Raw on Netflix came to us from the Inuit Dome live in Los Angeles. And before we get any that, we just want to send our thoughts, our prayers, our best wishes to anybody affected by the tragic fires in Los Angeles. Please, if you have an opportunity to send any help, send any relief to the people in need in Los Angeles, please do so, because this world needs each other. And right now, Los Angeles needs us. But on Monday night, they got a show of shows, and it's getting a lot of traction from a lot of people. 4.9 million people said to have viewed this event, whether it's through streaming, whether it's through attendance. But it was an episode nonetheless. 4 matches. A lot of people either liked it, a lot of people didn't like it. 4 matches got a lot of time. The stories were played out, but a lot of people didn't like the fact there were just 4 matches. So if you're in the comments, let me know what you thought of the match quantity, because I think we all can agree that the match quality that we got was quite enjoyable. In fact, a match to start the show: Solo Sikoa versus Roman Reigns in tribal combat. And yes, we saw what was supposed to be leaving your bloodlines in the back. Obviously, that didn't happen. We all know that honor in a tribal combat or in any form of bloodline rules type match, there is no honor in there. Just because you say you're going to leave people behind doesn't actually mean that you will. But that's all good, because this is what we want. This is what we enjoyed. We expect every single person who's capable and available to get involved. And this is where we like our surprises, because we as wrestling fans, we as the internet trolls, want to see if you're going to do what we say. We want to debut new talent. We want more people to sign and debut in the bloodline. If you're Samoan, even by a toenail, you're now in the bloodline. But we didn't get any debuts. We didn't get any returns. What we got was maybe a little bit of closure. First Bob coming in saying, I like the fact we got 4 matches on Raw Netflix. But what we did was got a little bit of closure, right? Roman Reigns regaining the Ulafala, defeating Solo Sikoa. And just when we thought Solo Sikoa was, going to acknowledge Roman Reigns, because that's what we were led to believe, that the loser in the match was going to acknowledge the winner of the match as their one and only tribal chief. Paul Heyman, the wise man, grabs Ulafala, about to bestow Ulafala around the neck of the OTC, but all of a sudden, that Dwayne Johnson that he might have been living under, well, guess what? He was in attendance. He comes down to the ring, grabs Ulafala, and he bestows Roman Reigns. And maybe acknowledges Roman Reigns once again as the tribal chief, the only tribal chief. So what's next? That's always going to be the question here in pro wrestling. What is next? We all know that Solo Sikoa was not on SmackDown, but is returning next week. Roman Reigns officially enters himself in the 2025 Royal Rumble, his first Royal Rumble match, I believe, since 2018. Let's also just say how stacked this men's Royal Rumble match is becoming. You got John Cena, you got CM Punk, you got Roman Reigns. You can only assume you're going to get the likes of Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, and then plus. So what is next for Roman Reigns? Is it still somebody within a bloodline? Whether it's like a Jacob Batu or Tama Tonga? Or do we see Roman Reigns branch out? And maybe he does something away from a bloodline feud. Roman Reigns was in the Men's Royal Rumble in 2022. Sure. I thought he was a champion in 2020. But yeah, no, you might be right, actually. Because I think in 2020, I thought he was a Universal Champion, then got sick, and then had to... Yeah, not too sure. 2020, do we really have 2020 anymore? That pandemic time frame? I don't know. But you might be right. I might be wrong. But I don't know. We're heading into that time, that road to WrestleMania, and we're thinking, okay, is this going to be the year that we see Roman Reigns versus The Rock? I don't know. Is that a match that still makes sense right now? I mean, I think anytime it could be. It was technically before the pandemic. I just accumulate all of 2020 as a pandemic year. I mean, you're right. I mean, my birthday was just, I got to enjoy it right before everything shut down. So, and that was in March. So you're not wrong. It was in front of people. And then you know what? You're right, because Drew McIntyre eliminated Roman at the very end to win the Rumble. You are absolutely correct. I do remember that now, because that was the big Brock Lesnar dominating all until Drew McIntyre came in and Claymore the living, everlasting beast out of him. Paul Heyman looked as shocked as he can look. You were right. But it's been a hot minute. 5 years since a Rumble appearance. A half a decade. CPRS is telling me, something tells me that the inevitable Drew versus Roman match will happen at Mania this year. You know how much I do want to see that I didn't know I wanted to see until I saw this in the back? Was when the clip was shown from the WWE socials with The Rock and Drew McIntyre talking. And Drew McIntyre was surprised that we could now use more aggressive curse words on Netflix. And then started saying a little bit more of words. And then Rock was like, okay, well, you just crossed over the line. Here's the line, and this is where we're going. And then Drew's like, that's kind of what I've been doing all along lately. That's kind of my thing now. Bob coming in saying Edge was in the Rumble. But I kind of want to see Drew McIntyre versus The Rock at some point. I think that would be such a interesting match, especially with Drew. And this is how I'd piece it together. You can have Drew fight through the whole bloodline. And I know The Rock technically wasn't a part of the bloodline that screwed him. But if The Rock was always kind of the guy in charge of the bloodline, that they could always say, maybe, just maybe, this is where Drew McIntyre could then step up to The Rock and be like, well, if you were the one that brought in Solo, if you were the one that directed the carnage of the bloodline, then I now have a problem with you. And I have a feeling The Rock, who is known now as the High Chief, overrides the Tribal Chief. So by that theory, The Rock would know everything going on in the bloodline. And he would know that Drew McIntyre was a target at one point. No. We did get a Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre WrestleMania match before. If y'all remember that dog food time frame. It wasn't pleasant. Yeah, just definitely wasn't pleasant. But I think this time, if you were to do Roman Rock, I think it's definitely safe that you're not going to have a championship. Unless that was the time The Rock decides to pass that People's Champion title over to Roman and pass the torch, I guess. I don't know. I'm not going to lie. I kind of want to see the Ulafala maybe not be in play for a bit. Yes, it has meaning, but it doesn't necessarily need to be the end-all be-all right now. I just don't want to see every Roman match now be for the Ulafala, I guess is what I'm saying. I just have a feeling if that was the case, we're going to see the Ulafala kind of overshadow an actual championship, and I just wouldn't appreciate that. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking too much into this. But anyway, later in the show, we did see Jey Uso defeat Drew McIntyre. Yes, that match, I think, surprised me in the sense that I fully expected Drew McIntyre to win this match. I was a little bit on the curious end of why, but at the same time, I'm not unhappy that Jey Uso won. I'm just surprised because I thought there was this now kind of big. I just thought they were doing more with Drew McIntyre at the time. So him losing straight up, might I add, was a little bit on the side of things. But it was a great match. I didn't not enjoy it. I was just more surprised by it because I really thought that they were going to have Drew McIntyre kind of run roughshod on what was the original bloodline. So in that form of thinking, it was just a little surprised. But, I mean, that's a good thing, right? Not having a show that's completely predictable, I mean, that's a good thing. It's just a little different, I guess, right? But again, I ask, where do both men go next? Because as we were led to believe, the transfer window was going to be final by this episode of Netflix, and Grayson Waller flat out said on SmackDown that it's not over. It's still something. So now how long does a transfer window really go till? I, just like I think many fans, would like a little bit more clarity on that end. Because, and this ties into the Drew McIntyre-Jey Uso match, because I was kind of expecting Drew McIntyre to be moved to SmackDown. So if that's still a play, I don't necessarily know what his intentions are with the bloodline, if he may potentially not be on a brand with any bloodlines, because Roman Reigns could very well be shifting over to Monday nights. But we don't know. All I do know is I would like to see Jey Uso kind of, if not tip his toes back into the Intercontinental Championship scene, I would like to see him tip his toes in a feud that's maybe in that kind of upper echelon of the card, but not necessarily for a championship right now. I think if maybe Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens does finish by the Rumble, maybe, just maybe, that's when you can have Jey Uso and Kevin Owens maybe go after each other. I think that would be different, but at the same time, it would be very fresh. And then you can sprinkle in, okay, now where does Sami Zayn lie in this? Because he has a good friend in Jey Uso, and now he has a good friend in Kevin Owens. Where does he really lie in this? And no, I'm not thinking we're going to get back to a Kevin, Sami versus Usos thing, but you could, I guess. Just Best is coming in saying, I wonder if they make a special week where the transfer window comes to an end on Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. Well, and that's the thing. I think a timeline, at the very least, would be something that's a little bit more plausible, right? I think that's all you want. It's just that clarity. Whether it's a timeline, whether it's, a list of who actually moved something. But it's one of those things with the less information we get and the less clarity we do get, the more open it is, and it just seems to give the product an out to do whatever they want. And again, kind of go back to that, oh, well, we did a draft, but now when we need people, they're just going to go to wherever they go. And that just goes back to, the feeling of why many fans didn't like the draft to begin with, because they didn't hold true that if you're drafted to one brand, you just stayed on that brand. No, you always would move over. But Bobby Conan said, I'd like to see Carmelo Hayes show up on Raw and talk to Adam Pearce. I think Monday Night Mello, as he once said, it does have a nice ring to it, and I would not hate it at all. In fact, I kind of would like to see Carmelo and Braun Breaker run it back. That Intercontinental Championship seems pretty good to me. I think Carmelo Hayes needs something along that line. I still think we never really truly got our closure on him versus Andrade. I know they had a best of 7, but did they really have closure? I don't think so. Also on Raw, we saw Rhea Ripley regain the Women's World title as she defeated Liv Morgan. I think that was the closure in the Rhea versus Liv feud. And I think it was proper. I think that's exactly what needed to happen. This allows Liv to now compete in the 2025 Women's Royal Rumble, which I believe she has partaked in every Women's Royal Rumble so far. So she gets to keep that streak going. I think she kind of cements another big-time player in the Women's Royal Rumble, where I think it's expected that we're going to see Nia Jackson there. We're going to see Bayley. I think we're going to see the returning of Charlotte, Becky, possibly Alexa Bliss. Then we'll have maybe Jade Cargill. We'll have Bianca Belair. We'll have the United States champion, Chelsea Green, Piper Niven. And so it's shaping up to be a solid one as well. Io Sky, who I think might be my pick to win the 2025 Women's Royal Rumble. I think I would like that. Because Io versus Rhea at WrestleMania for the title. Okay, sign me up on that one. And then, yeah. You want to know? I have CM Punk winning the Men's Royal Rumble. And I think it very well could be him and Seth again at WrestleMania. I do think they find a way to make that happen again. There's something about that. But we'll get to that. Because again, I want to talk what's next with Rhea and Liv at this point. I think it makes a lot of sense if Liv is moved over to SmackDown. I would like to see Liv Morgan and Raquel go up against maybe Bayley. Obviously, if Liv goes, I think Raquel's going to go. So I'd like to see kind of Bayley kind of be that one person to go up against Liv. And then that's where I think you can slot Becky Lynch back. I think that'd be all right. because I think Becky versus Liv at one point would need a little bit more, especially with Liv claiming that she retired Becky. I think that's a great way to kind of bring Becky back, and then maybe you can have Bayley and Raquel kind of work with each other for a bit, unless you bring Bayley over to Raw. But yeah, and then as for Rhea, I think maybe a short-term feud with someone up until maybe Elimination Chamber is probably the right play. And then they can start building to whatever her match. I think it could be Io at WrestleMania. The question is, like, who would you put in that scenario? And I think that's something that, could be a little bit on the, okay, let's get a little bit creative side. I don't know. Let me know in the chat, like, what would you guys want? I mean, Bobby, you are not wrong. Rhea Ripley versus Jordynne Grace would be a nice match, too. I wouldn't even hate Jordynne Grace being the person that took the title off Rhea. I just don't think WrestleMania, like, as much as like WrestleMania, I think would be like if you brought Jordynne Grace in the Rumble, and then that's her. Not like they flat out say this is not a TNA signing or this is not a TNA wrestler entering the Rumble. Jordynne Grace is officially now a WWE superstar entering the Royal Rumble, and then even if it's like a quote unquote hot start or a hot. What was that, right? Like just hot shotter all the way. I wouldn't hate it. I mean, Jordynne Grace. That's kind of how you make it a little bit special. I mean, you kind of did that with Lyra Valkyria right away, right? With the Queen of the Ring. And had she had won that, I mean, she would have been off to the races. But we all know she lost to Nia Jax. Then they had her kind of qualifying the Money in the Bank, and then they kind of had a little bit of a lull with her. And now she's in the Intercontinental Championship match versus Dakota Kai. But if you do some of Jordynne Grace where you kind of, kept her up top, she might have that different pathway, and she might be considered one of those heavy hitters. And if she was the one that dethroned Rhea, I mean, Rhea is, kind of the standard for the women's division right now. So if she was able to notch a big win like that off Rhea, I mean, that solidifies her right away. However, I do think it might be best suited to wait until maybe a SummerSlam for that. The question is, though, if Jordynne Grace is in the Rumble, who would be the best personal eliminator? And that's what I'm really having a struggle to think. I mean, people coming to mind are, maybe it's a Bayley, maybe it's a Natalya, maybe it's a Io Sky, maybe it's even Charlotte Flair or Becky Lynch. Piper Niven could be interesting too. But at this point, just, going down a rabbit's hole of what if. Yeah, Bobby's name, Piper Niven. So, I mean, and that's just it. Like, it's really a who's who at this point. I think, too, one of the things that's, I think, so good about this time of the year is the unpredictability that comes in because you just don't know yet. And in 3 weeks' time, the Royal Rumble, you're going to get a few more clarity pieces here, going to kind of put that puzzle together. And then we head over to the Elimination Chamber, and then we'll get kind of more, we'll start really seeing the picture. And then by WrestleMania, we get to unveil that puzzle we've just put together. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Very interesting. I don't know. But yeah, no, I don't hate Rhea Ripley and Jordynne Grace. I mean, we all know that Zarya is someone that Rhea Ripley knows very well too. So maybe they bring her up. I don't know. Man, maybe Roxanne Perez gets that move up to a Raw or SmackDown and does something with Rhea. But lastly, we had CM Punk defeating Seth Rollins in the main event on that Raw on Netflix. And what's very interesting to note is that it didn't feel like this was the end. If you know that you saw something special with this, it was a different match than what they had prior. Punk's last stint with WWE, his first stint was. Chris Best coming in and saying, I was just going to say I fully expect Roxanne Perez to come over to the main roster. I mean, yeah, losing the title kind of has that. It makes a lot of sense. It's usually a good sign. But yeah, CM Punk and Seth Rollins, I don't think it's something where, we're going to see the end. But when do we get that second match? When do we get that? And then, again, it definitely had a different feel, right? Obviously, both are completely made superstars at this point. They're former champions, former Money in the Bank winners. They're soon to be Hall of Famers, both of them. Whereas when they last wrestled before this, I mean, you can arguably say Seth Rollins was just an upcoming superstar. So now, with this, we know that Seth Rollins did take the loss here. How is he going to handle the loss? We all know that he's had a lot of issues with CM Punk just coming back in general. But CM Punk just didn't come back to the degree of Seth Rollins. He now beat him straight up. So where does Seth Rollins go? We all know that CM Punk has declared himself for the Royal Rumble match. We know he intends on winning that Royal Rumble match and plans to headline WrestleMania, main event WrestleMania. Could we see Seth Rollins try to go in that match just to ensure CM Punk not winning? CM Punk gets the best of Seth Rollins, because I will tell you this, I would not hate a CM Punk Seth Rollins final in the Rumble with CM Punk besting Seth Rollins once again. With Seth Rollins sitting on that floor wondering, what do I have to do? As soon as I step in the ring with this guy, all he does is get the better of me. And I can't stand him. What do I have to do? And that's why I fully think that's when we see Seth Rollins go inside Elimination Chamber, walk away with the championship, and then urge CM Punk to pick him, because he is CM Punk's ticket to headline a WrestleMania. Said, you want gold? I have gold. You want to headline WrestleMania? I'm your ticket. But then the question is, well, does CM Punk run the gauntlet then on Seth Rollins? Does he win that title? I don't know. I just don't know. But there's a part of me that's what we're going to get at WrestleMania. CM Punk versus Seth Rollins. And then we got a lot of impromptus, or so-called impromptus, a lot of segments on Raw, right? The Rock, John Cena, Hulk Hogan was there saying we have a beer that they're gonna do. He tried to rip off a shirt, but I feel Cotton finally got the W against Hulk Hogan on that one because he didn't fully rip the shirt. In fact, it was like dragging from his legs and his knees while he was walking away. That was kind of funny. He got booed out of the building hard. And anybody who's like, well, is this political beliefs? Well, Undertaker came down. He voted for the same guy. And he got cheered. I don't even know which one I was more confused by. Hulk Hogan coming out saying, hey, I got a beer that's now being partnered with WWE, or Undertaker just coming out for a joyride after Rhea just won the championship. I just did not understand. As much as you're like, okay, well, this is just going to be like a show of shows. And it's never bad to see the Undertaker. I just didn't understand that being the time. I thought it would have been better if it was like after Jey Uso defeated Drew McIntyre. To be quite honest, imagine Undertaker eating. Imagine him just throwing the big eat down. I mean, as much as it was fun watching Booker T back in the day trying to convince Undertaker to spin a Rooney, it would have been a lot of entertainment just to watch Jey Uso try to make the Undertaker do the yeet. So Bobby coming in saying, I'm looking forward to Chad Gable in action tomorrow. And then, moving to tomorrow's episode of Monday Night Raw, coming from San Jose, California. Chad Gable is going up against a mystery luchador, which all signs point to the debut of Penta. As another graphic shown, and we got the wordplay right in that mask. Chris Best saying it would have been funnier if I actually did do the. Well, that's what I said right away, right? But Chad Gable going up against, and if it is the debut of Penta, it is going to be insane. The only problem I have with this is, yes, it's going to be a great match. We all know it's going to be awesome. My thing is, just when we thought Chad Gable was getting back on that winning track, if he goes up against Penta, he is not winning. That is another fork in the road for Chad Gable. That's why, at the very least, this should be Chad Gable's last match on Raw, and he should appear on SmackDown on Friday. And then American Made are now SmackDown talents as of Friday. Because he's tired of the... He thought maybe he was getting Rey Mysterio or Dragon Lee or somebody. I'm not going to lie. There's part of me that wants it to be Axiom just to see how pissed off people would get. Could you imagine? Or maybe the Miz puts on the Calgary Kid mask once more. Makes no sense, but again, it's kind of funny to see like the occasional wrestling fan just lose their minds on social media. That might be a little evil, but it's kind of funny. It's like it was like seeing last year where we're bringing in a former world champion coming back to Raw, Jinder Mahal, and seeing how many people were like, what the? And I mean, only for him to cut like his best promo and nobody really like cared about it, and then he got interrupted by The Rock and everybody went about it. But like it was actually one of the best little like gotcha moments in a while. You don't see those very often. That's the saying surprise plot twist is actually one of the conquistadors. I think they're dead. I think the conquistadors are dead. I know that's a little dark, but I don't think we'll ever see the conquistadors ever again. I really don't. And if there's gonna be anybody that plays them, it better be pretty deadly. If there's anybody to bring back the Los Conquistadors, I hope that God it's pretty deadly, and I hope they're feuding with people in the LW. If you're pretty deadly against like Dragon Lee and Rey Mysterio, I would love to see them do that. Bobby coming in saying, who do you like to see Obafemi go up against in the NXT Championship? Shawn Spears. I don't think they would do heel though. Because I think they want him to go heel. I mean, obviously a return match for Trick Williams makes a lot of sense. Trick Williams did lose in a triple threat match and not a straight up one-on-one. So I think that's the most obvious and logical thing you can go to, but I'm going to say this. If you're going to bring anybody from Raw and SmackDown and then put him back in NXT just for, a time being, I wouldn't hate Apollo Crews. But I also... Here's something I just don't know if they would even do it. But what about in NXT if Obafemi had an open challenge for the NXT title and then Omos came out? Just the sheer visual would be intriguing. Bobby saying maybe Cedric Alexander. I mean, if he waits another month or so, Josh Alexander could be phenomenal. Wait till we know Josh Alexander. He has flat out said February 15th is when he plans on testing the free agent waters for the first time in his career, probably the only time in his career. But if he was to swing over Obafemi versus Josh Alexander, now that is something I'd sign me up for on that one. Another thing you want to sign me up for is the fact that you can check out all the beautiful programming live on Turnbuckle Studios. And then thanks for the Turnbuckle affiliation program, you can now check to see what shows all the current members of the Turnbuckle affiliation program are up to. So check this out. We'll get back to the Chris Perish podcast in about a minute time.
Turnbuckle Studios and the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program bring you the week of streams. All times are in Eastern Time. Monday nights you get the Locker Room Breakdown at 7 p.m., followed by the Raw Patrol at 8 p.m. Tuesday brings you the flagship show, Turnbuckle Talk, at 8:05 p.m. Wednesday we play games with the PlayStation Showcase at 8 p.m. Thursday we got total non-stop action with Brace for Impact at 8 p.m. Friday we game again with Unleashed, the Jessica Wilde story at 7 p.m. Following the game, join us for the SmackDown Security Detail at 8 p.m. The weekend brings you Saturday Night Gaming at 8 p.m. On Sunday be sure to catch the Chris Perish podcast at 12:15 p.m. Be part of the shows and join the chat.
Yeah, and that's what we can enjoy through the week of the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program through different platforms, whether it's Turnbuckle Studios, whether it's Chris Perish, whether it's the Boarsnet, Dan Hersick, or at CBRS Entertainment. You can check out so many different shows, so many different platforms. And yes, if you can, go like, follow, subscribe, enjoy, share, all of those. Also to note, it sounds like the A Boar's Nest is coming on Sunday nights at about the 8 o'clock Eastern time frame. So check that out as well. I don't think anything has been 100% confirmed yet, but it does sound like you can expect to see a Boar's Nest type show Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Whether it's an open mic night, a gaming thing, I'm not too sure, but make sure that you check out Bubba Duke and the Boar's Nest for more information on that. Make sure that you check out also Turnbuckle Studios as well, because I'm sure they will let you know more about that as well. So just a little program note. And then obviously the PLE Patrol will be back, I'm sure, for the Royal Rumble in 3 weeks' time. So make sure you check that out. It will not be with me. I will be on location. Same thing with that SmackDown security detail right before, on location. But yeah, Obafemi, Josh Alexander, definitely something I would like to see. A rumored departure, though, out of AEW is being heavily rumored as Malaki Black will be. No, I don't say will be, because I'm not sure. But it's being heavily rumored that Malaki Black has finished up with the promotion and is expected to join WWE if he does leave AEW. If he decided to join WWE again, I would not hesitate him versus Obafemi either. I think that would be fantastic. Now, is that the first thing I would do? You know, there's something about Aleister Black, Final Testament, Wyatt 6. There seems to be something there that I just think makes sense. I don't know what, but I wouldn't be against it. And yeah, I know it's easy to say, well, do something here, do something there. I don't know. But as much as I would like him to just do his own thing, I also think he hasn't ever really been part of a faction in WWE. So if he was to return to WWE, which, by the way, I would not hesitate to call him Aleister Black again. I don't think there's an issue with that name at all. In fact, I do think it's a badass name. Not that I dislike Malaki Black at all, by the way. I think Malaki is actually pretty cool. But if the rumors are correct and Malaki Black is no longer going to be a part of AEW and does want to return to WWE, I think that would be very, very interesting. Not too sure when that would be, but if that's a surprise at the Rumble, that is awesome. If it's not, man, how cool would it be? How cool would it be if Aleister Black returns the Raw after Mania and goes up against Penta? Bob coming in saying Aleister Black would do great under the Triple H regime in WWE on the main roster. In fact, I even wouldn't even be upset to see like a heel Aleister Black go up against a babyface Andrade and play that back once. That would be different. Yeah, I don't know. All I know is that if Aleister Black, Malaki Black, whatever you want to call him, is on his way back to WWE, That is a big positive for WWE. That is a huge loss for AEW. I do think that was a world champion type talent that did not get that opportunity. And maybe that's exactly why these rumors are being put out there. But all I know is that there is no reason why this man should not be employed in a professional wrestling company. Bobby would like to see Aleister Black versus Carmelo Hayes. Not even that. Aleister Black versus Shinsuke Nakamura, I think right now would be pretty awesome. The mind games between Shinsuke and Aleister Black would be off the hook. When you think all the cryptic that Aleister Black could be, and Bobby, you'd have to, or even best, let me know more of the kind of the fonts and the writing that Aleister Black had when he was with WWE, but you mix in with that Japanese mystique that Shinsuke has, I think that'd be pretty cool of a dynamic. Yeah. Black and Karrion Kross is also intriguing. And that's the thing. Like, I don't know if I would want them to go up against each other, but I think what a great way to kick Miz out of the final testament. Kick out. You know what I mean? Like, then Aleister Black legitimately kicking Miz out. But no, it's not here nor there, I guess. But I mean, again, this is just speculation on something that has not happened. But I'm just surprised to hear that Malaki Black could be leaving. I just thought, I mean, if I was going to tell you that I thought there were maybe 5 people in AEW that I thought would have been at least world champion and that didn't, I would have said Pac, Malaki Black, Miro. I thought Andrade could have been. And then obviously Cody Rhodes was a very surprise non-world champion. Now we know. I mean, I think a lot of us knew how much more Ethan Page could give you. I just don't think a lot of people expected Ethan Page to be a world champion in AEW. He never looked or came across like world champion, but in NXT, that's all he seems like he is. He is nothing more than world championship material. And he is somebody I would love, absolutely love to see brought up to a Raw or SmackDown. But yeah, I think all I know, it's going to be a very intriguing next few weeks in pro wrestling, especially for WWE. And it's going to be interesting to see tomorrow, kind of Monday Night Raw on Netflix, because I think we'll finally get more of an idea of what Raw on Netflix feels like. I don't think it's going to be that. I don't think it's going to be like what we saw last week. I think last week was more of a one-time deal. It was definitely the debut on Netflix, a little different. Now I think it's going to be a little bit more of a kind of what to expect on Raw on Netflix. And I think that's going to start tomorrow. So it's going to be a fun time. Again, it's a little weird watching pro wrestling on Netflix because I know if you're in the United States, you can still watch the CW for NXT. You can still watch USA for SmackDown. But here in Canada, everything is on Netflix. I think the US is the only place where you can't get everything on Netflix live. And let me tell you something. When there are commercials, it is not the most exciting things on Netflix, because you basically get videos of just poses from superstars with a very weird music in the background. And it's the same thing. And then you get the "we will be right back," whether it's in English or other languages. So, yeah, you get that for the entire time that a commercial is played. So it's a little bit on the boring side. Bobby coming in saying Ethan Page would be a great entrant, or a nice entrant, for the men's Royal Rumble match. Yeah. Needless to say, pro wrestling is under a completely different era now. It's on Netflix. We are gearing up to the Royal Rumble. We are going to cap this episode off pretty quickly. Also, I didn't want to let people know I did win my main event matchup last night against Camp on Hees at RCW Legacy. That's right. Starting off 2025, not only with the big fat dub, but a main event big fat dub, by the way. Also, kind of want to take this time to let everybody know that going and supporting your local pro wrestling is very important and very wanted by everyone. Thank you, Bob. There are times when you go to a pro wrestling show, you don't know what to expect. Sometimes you're going to hear things that you don't want to hear. Sometimes you're going to see things that you don't want to see. Sometimes you're going to go to that show not knowing what to expect. And you might be a little bit on the wrong end of something, whether it's done intentionally or unintentionally. Last night at the RCW show that I was on, there were a few comments that were made by, I'm going to leave that person out, that maybe a lot of people didn't like. It wasn't flattering. It wasn't in good taste. All I will say is I hope people don't judge every pro wrestler to be like that. What we do is definitely a job. A lot of us are trying to get to that next level. A lot of us are just doing it because we enjoy to do it. A lot of us are doing it because we understand the outlet it gives other people. I take that very seriously. I'm a very big proponent of making sure the fans are entertained at a local show. And I really hope they were. And I was very proud of the match that I had with Cat Von Hughes last night. I'm very proud of the fact that an intergender main event was done. And I thought it was in good taste. I thought it was in great spirit. And I thought a lot of people got not only entertained, but enjoyed it. And the reason why I talk about this is because we are in 2025 now, and there's no reason why at local pro wrestling shows we have to subject ourselves to what's wrong with society, and we cannot be examples of the positive change and movement that the society is also doing. So that's why I think it's very important that if you're going to that show and you see something that you're not liking, it is okay to speak up, but at the same time, just because you see one person it does not reflect every single member of that roster. So it sucks, but at the same time, I'm just happy that we live in a society now where at a wrestling show, we do have people that are able to separate that. And I appreciate that, because sometimes you take the platform that you have for granted, and I can tell you right now that I very much don't, and I very much am proud of the fact of what I get to do. I'm very grateful for what I get to do, and I'm very appreciative of what I get to do. And I'm very appreciative and grateful for every one of you that have taken your time to enjoy or to view, whatever one is more accurate. Episode 59 of the Chris Perish podcast. I thank you so much. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters, is that we're here for one another and we get to put a smile on your face. So that's why I'm going to say, hey, go Saints. Even though they're out, go Saints. But everyone, please be happy, be healthy, be yourself. Because at the end of the day, you matter. See you next week for episode 60.
Rip through the clouds, fast to catch us from